Hello everyone. Today we are discuss about x64 architecture. We are allocated group number 8. Our information presentation is organized as follows. First one is introduction. Second one is examples of x64 architecture. Third one is history of x64 architecture. Fourth one is how does it work. Fifth one is advantages and limitations. Sixth one is difference of x64-bit edition and x32-bit edition. Seventh one is conclusion. First, I give Chamodi the opportunity to explain what x64 architecture is.
Thanks for your collaboration, Sahan. I am Chamodi Imeshika. Index number is 216051P. I am going to present introduction of x64 architecture. In 1999, introduced two new mode of operation to computer user. There was x86 and x64 architecture compatibility mode. Actually, when people use computer, they should be want to add more features of their system. So as a result, in today, x86 architecture is mostly used for computers, and also x64 architecture is introduced newest to future enhancement. In today's, most of device with pre-installed Windows run mostly on x64. The x64 architecture is newer architecture that is becoming increasingly common for Windows PCs and laptops. Moreover, in many ways, x86 and x64 are similar, but both of them are different in many ways. Feature the more details, you have to get some idea. I have you get to idea about what is x65 architecture. Then now you can see what are the explained for x64 architecture explained by Nimna. Nimna, it is over to you.
Thank you, Chamodi. My name is Lakshan Ranavira. Index number is 2161048. I am going to explain about example of x64 architecture. Example of 64-bit processors, AMD Opton, Athlon 64, Turing 64, Saturn, Phenom, FX, and Fashion. All Intel Xeon processors since the Nocona released in June 2004. Intel Celeron and Pentium 4 processors since Prescott. Intel Pentium dual core, Core i3, Core i5, and Core i7 processors. Example of 64-bit operating system. Several operating systems, including Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 10 may function of 64-bit architecture. When Windows XP and Vista were popular, 64-bit versions were for less frequent. Next, trying to explain x64 architecture history.
Thanks for your collaboration, Nimna. My name is Ravindara. My index number is 216139T. I will explain history of 64-bit architecture. The 64-bit architecture is the 64-bit extension of the 86-bit architecture. The first 64-bit processor was the Pentium Pro, released by Intel in 1995. Since 2010 to 2010, almost all computers and mobile devices have come with 64-bit processors and processors for operating system and applications. The AMD and Intel have acquired the 99% of the current processor market. By now, Intel Core X series and AMD Ryzen 9 have issued. All they are 64-bit processors. In 1985, Cray released Unicode, the first 64-bit implementation of the Unix operating system. Cray Inc. was American computer manufacturer, and it was active from 1972 to 1995. The first OS to completely support 64-bit is Linux, and Microsoft released Windows XP 64-bit edition for Titanium 64-bit architecture. This is first Microsoft 64-bit processor. By now, the various kind of Microsoft Windows OSs have developed to Windows 11, and all they are 64-bit processors, 64-bit OSs. Android Lollipop is the first iteration of the Android operating system to support 64 bits. Thank you. Our next topic is how does it works. It will explain Sahan.
Hari. And for your collaboration, Ravindu. My name is Sahan Sachinta, and index number is 216025P. We know that main control unit of a computer is the processor, and the main control board is the motherboard. We find two parts called bus and chipset. The group of many fine wires that carry data and control information between internal and external devices. ඊසේ වැරදුනා. වා මේ කලින් ස්ලයිඩ් එක දාලා තිබ්බේ. Thank for your collaboration, Ravindu. My name is Sahan Sachinta, and index number is 216025P. I'll explain about how it works. We know that the main control unit of a computer is the processor, and the main control board is the motherboard. We find two parts called bus and chipset. The group of very fine wires that carry data and the control information between internal and external devices attached to a computer's motherboard is called a bus. A small chipset containing control information is called. Computer used in the past used to have a number of chips scattered in different places. But in the computers used today, the chips are all placed in one place. Modern computers have two chipsets, North Bridge and South Bridge. RAM and VGA card are connected to North Bridge chipset. Data on the hard disk travels through RAM to the North Bridge chipset, and from there to the CPU. The bus that carries data from the memory to the North Bridge chipset is called the memory bus, and the bus that carries data from the VGA card to the North Bridge chipset is called the graphic bus. The bus that carries data from the North Bridge chipset to the CPU is called the front-side bus. Input and output devices are mainly connected to the South Bridge chipset. The South Bridge chipset isn't connected directly with the processor. data and commands exchanged between the south bridge chipset and the north bridge chipset. After that, exchange the data between the north bridge chipset and the processor. The bus that exchange data between input and output devices and south bridge chipset is called LPC bus. The bus that exchange data between south bridge chipset and north bridge chipset is called internal bus. A 64-bit system is a system with 64 bus lanes that exchange data and commands between the CPU, chipset, motherboard, and external devices. Our next topic is advantages and limitations of x64 architecture. It will explain by Jaini.
Thank you, Sahan. I am Jaini. My index number is 216057N. Now I am going to explain about what are the advantages and limitations of 64 architecture. Numerous benefits of 64-bit CPUs include the following. A huge increase in RAM. Computers can load and operate big, complicated software programs that employ enormous data sets because they have access to so much accessible memory space, which is all loaded and running in the computer's memory. Computer-aided design software and other tools for data visualization and database management system, technical and scientific software like Hadoop, other big data tools, and high-performance servers are some examples of these programs. Additionally, logical virtualization and the development of numerous virtual machines at once are both easily supported by such a large memory space. Better data movement performance. The secret to a process performance is moving and processing more data more quickly because processors use 64 bits for both addressing and data. They can carry twice as much data per clock cycle than 32-bit processors. As a result, the CPU can process far more data and instructions in a given amount of time than earlier processors. 64-bit data has more specified. Not only can 64 data bits simply convey orders and magnitude more data resolution. 2064 different states as opposed to 2032 or even smaller 2060 or 28 states, but they can also transport more smaller pieces of data. The intricacy and expression of data sets such as the generation of topographical maps or the visualization of other data can be significantly impacted by this added detail. However, there are a number of disadvantages to 64-bit CPUs today, including the following. Industry catching up. Practically speaking, 64-bit processors available today are unable to access the full amount of memory that 64-bit can accommodate. Due to early 64-bit operating systems and hardware limitations, the practical memory limit for 64-bit CPUs when they were originally released was approximately 8 terabytes. Today, OS and associated hardware have improved. However, due to exciting OS and unresolved memory design restricted to just 2056 terabytes of memory space. The issue isn't that the 64-bit CPU can't utilize all 64 bits. Rather, it's that the rest of the computer industry is still lagging behind the developing to match that vast capacity. So in the upcoming years, this problem ought to go away. Memory loss backward compatibility with 32-bit computing is provided by 64-bit computing. Nevertheless, depending on how data is saved and encoded the transition from the 32-bit to 64-bit computing environments may result in wasted memory space. For instance, some 32-bit programs and datasets could require padding or essentially null data to fill the extra 32 bits at each location. It functions, but using all the 32-bit software or data is not good use of the extra space. As all the 32-bit legacy software is updated and replaced by comparable 32-bit programs, this problem should eventually go away. Thank you. Now I give the chance to Yasahiru explain about what are the differences of 64 architecture. Thank you.
Thank you for your support joining. My name is Asir Baghe and my index number is 216130H. I am going to explain difference between 32-bit and 64-bit OS. A 64-bit processor is more compatible than a 32-bit processor because it can handle more data at once. A 64-bit processor can store more computational value, including memory address, which means it can access over 4 billion times physical memory of 32-bit processor. Here is the key difference. 32-bit processors are preferably of handling a limit amount of RAM, and 64-bit processor can handle much more. Much difference between 32-bit processor and 64-bit processor is the number of calculation per second they can perform, which affects the speed at which they can complete tasks. Let's consider some difference between 32-bit and 64-bit operation system. First one is handling of data and storage. As its name suggests, the 32-bit OS can storage and handle less data than 64-bit OS. More specific, it addresses maximum 4 GB RAM. The 64-bit OS, the other hand, can handle more data than the 32-bit OS. It means that it can address a lot of, which is 18 quintillion GB of RAM. Performance. The factor of performance in the 32-bit processor is less efficient than the 64-bit processor. 64-bit processor exhibit high performance than the 32-bit processor. Addressable space. 32-bit processor, it has addressable space of 4 GB. 64-bit processor, they have an addressable space of 16 GB. Calculations per second. 32-bit processor system have dual core and quad core version. 64-bit bit system can have multi process available. OS support 32-bit operation system is need to 32-bit operation system. 64-bit operation system, both 32-bit and the 64-bit operation system can run. Next one is system available. These support for 32-bit operation system is Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 8, and Linux. 64-bit operation system support Windows XP Professional, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows Vista, and Linux, and Mac OS. I hope all of you have understood about difference between 32-bit and 64-bit. Jani, can you continue now?
Thank you, Cecily. Now we are coming to our presentation last item, conclusion. And 68 extension that is backwards compatible is the 64 architecture. It offers a new 64-bit mode in addition to the classic 32-bit mode that is comparable to 86. 8 exciting general purpose registers from 86 are expanded to 8 new 64-bit registers by 64. An administrator may come across one of two alternative 64-bit architectures, 64 or IA64. 64 is the most prevalent. This is an addition to the AMD created and licensed to Intel 86 instruction set. Most new CPU is homes and business employ this architecture, making the most prevalent. The IA64 architecture, often known as the Intel Itanium architecture, was created by Intel and HP and marketed for use in high-performance system and enterprise servers. Thank you for joining us. Today our presentation is over. Thank you.